Welcome to the Emily Kate Made This podcast. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. This is my little space on the internet where I like to talk about my crafty things like sewing and knitting, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Emily Kate Made This. So hello to my regular viewers and a big hello to all my new viewers. I have seen a huge amount of subscribers, which made me very happy, so thank you very much. I'm glad you're enjoying what I'm making, and hopefully you'll continue to enjoy. So, I would have reintroduced myself, but it's so nice that a lot of you have messaged me telling me you've been binge watching my episodes, so I'm flattered. So I guess I don't need to. So let's get on to what I have been making. I have also started adding some timestamps. So if you're not interested in the particular thing that I'm talking about, like sewing for example, and you're just here for the knitting, then you can just skip forward a little bit. So excuse me while I have a slurp. So although you might think I'm wearing the same thing as last week, 2 weeks ago I think. So this is the same fabric as the wide strap maxi dress that I showed you in my last episode, but this one is actually something different. It is also from the Peppermint magazine website. It's a free pattern, and it's a collaboration with the Common Stitch. It was their loungewear words. Oh, this seems to be a theme. My words just disappear as soon as I press record. Let's try that again. It is their loungewear set. It has a kind of casual loose fitted top and then elasticated waisted trousers in the pattern. So it's a dropped shoulder, as you can probably tell. It's supposed to be quite large. I've chosen the smallest size, and as you can see it is rather large. I'll try and insert some pictures because right now it just looks like a big box on me. To be honest, it doesn't look particularly less boxy any other time, but that's the design. So I didn't have enough fabric to lay out the pattern correctly. So actually I have a seam that goes straight through the middle on this top, but I don't mind because I wanted to use the fabric and I wanted to turn it into something comfy and casual, so I don't think it looks bad. Oh, naughty me, didn't put my phone on silent, sorry. So I engaged my new practices from my wide strap maxi dress, and I actually did French seams on this as well. You don't need to, it's not required, but I wanted to practice. And it also made me aware that you really need to calculate the French seams into your garment. So luckily this was really large, so it doesn't matter. But if it was a dress that was very fitted, oh my gosh. I need to put you on silent. Sorry. Also, yes, the trousers that I'll try and insert a picture. They are from some fabric, some cotton fabric that I had in my stash that I bought for something else, and then I completely forgot what it was. So I thought, I'm not just going to let it sit there, I'm going to use it. So yeah, it's got elasticated waist, it has pockets because everybody needs pockets. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about that. Moving on. Thank goodness I hear you cry. So, knitting. We are now on to the knitting section. So, finished objects. I have finished my Biscuit Socks. Oh, just wants to see my face. There we go. So, I have both evidence it's finished on my sock blockers that I talked about last episode. So these are a pattern by Isabelle Handmade Stories. Last time I told you they were by Fluffy Fibers, which technically they are, but she's changed her name since, so I thought I would just address that. I knitted these in the Onion Knits DK weight yarn. It's a combination of nettle and wool, and it's organic. I really love them. I wanted to practice my Norwegian knitting and Norwegian purling, so I thought this was a really good way because I had my rib, and then every few rows you have to do a little bit of a purl bump. So it wasn't too much purling, but it was enough to practice my Norwegian purling. So that was fun. And they had a Dutch heel. I really liked this actually. It's got the Eye of Partridge construction, but then I don't know what it is exactly, but it somehow decreased differently to the ones I usually do, and I really enjoyed it. It felt like a lot less like mind brain requirement than usual. The toe, not a huge fan of the toe to be honest, but I don't mind it. It's a combination of it decreases quite rapidly, a bit like when you do the top of a hat, and it forms this kind of shape. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm used to doing the toe decreases and then a Kitchener stitch, and this one just ends where you get to like maybe 4 stitches and then you pull, so it closed. Technical term there. Zoop. So it fits fine, and it looks fine, but I just prefer the other way of doing it. So I think the next time that I do them, I'll just do my Kitchener stitch instead. So other than that, it's a free pattern as well. So yes, love a free pattern. And it's DK, so I managed to whip these babies up in like a week and a half, I think. And usually my normal socks take me about a month. And even so, I still kind of get bored by when I start the second one, which is why I've started doing more like lace work and colour work and patterns, because even though the idea of going round and round in stockinette sounds good, in reality, I want, when I'm knitting, I want to do something. Like I want to play with the lace or play with the colour or play with cables. So I've put a pause on just plain stockinette for now. Stockinette socks for now. So yes, these are my finished object and I'm very happy with them. I'm going to do some more. I think I'm going to do a pair for my husband for Christmas because they're DK, so they're faster. And yeah, I just really enjoyed making them. And maybe I'll do one for my mum. I feel like every time I do a podcast, I'm telling you what I'm going to make my mum. And so far, she hasn't received any of the items yet. So she'll get a big bundle around Christmas, full of knitted love. So, my works in progress. I'm very pleased with my progress. You may recall, if you've watched my last 2 episodes, I think, I'm doing the Maja Cardigan by Hélène Magnússon. It's in combination with, or collaboration with Jabo, or Jabo. I should really learn to pronounce that. So I'm using the Iztex Let Lopi in a bunch of colours that I had in stash from a previous project that I was going to use them for and then changed my mind, and they were the perfect colours for this cardigan. So since my last podcast, sorry for the noise, I'm trying to get it out of my knitting basket and it's not very quiet. I have finished 2 sleeves. They look so tiny, but I am very tiny, so hopefully with these tiny little arms and my short stature, they will fit. They aren't the recommended length, which funnily enough, I always tally my knitting. So when I have a piece of paper next to my desk. So every time I finish a row, I do a little line so that I know how many times I did a row. So for example, on here, when I did my next sleeve, I knew I did, for example, 40 rows. But although I did that, my 2 sleeves are in fact a different length, which I didn't realise. It's never happened to me before, so I didn't even think about it. It's not drastic, but it's like a good, probably 2 centimeters different. But here are my 2 sleeves. The colour work on the first one, which I think is a bit tighter, because this is my first ever colour work garment ever. I've only done colour work on some socks, and so far none of them have fit because I've been so tight with my tension. So naturally I decided to do an entire jumper cardigan. So my next sleeve, I tried to be a little bit looser, and I didn't tug it at the ends when I'm doing the magic loop. So when I changed back around to the needle, I was pulling it quite tight, which basically undid all the hard work of my nice delicate loose floats. But they are tight. But I have very small arms, and I'm really hoping that I can block them, and I only need like a centimetre to be a bit more of an ease. Wow, my words are just not coming today. To have enough ease, basically. So that was a long blabbery explanation of I've done my sleeves. The body I'm also powering through. I'm very, very proud of myself. I am actually adding extra stitches. This is a steeked cardigan, which I'm very excited about. I've wanted a steek since I basically saw it like a week into learning how to knit, and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to do that. And then had to like rein it down and be like, no, you probably should learn to knit first. So the pattern says, it's also a free pattern by the way, so yes. I promise I do pay for patterns as well. It just so happens that these are all free. But the pattern says to do 2 additional stitches, but I feel far too nervous to just have 1 stitch on either side of cutting up my knitting. So I've done 5 stitches, and it tells you to purl them, which is why it looks a bit funny. But ta-da! So I did the rib section, which is done flat, and then when you join in the round, that's when you do your steek stitches. I don't know why, I've never steeked before, so I can't explain why. I'm assuming there's a purpose, and there will also be this colour button band that will get attached at some point afterwards. So here it is in all its glory. I am so proud of it. As you can see, it's quite small. I did actually go up a needle size. I don't know where my brain went. I just kind of gave away my brain and my logic when I started this project. I know from looking at a Let Lopi ball band, they suggest like 4 or 5 millimeter needles, and the pattern suggested, I think, 4 millimeter. And I just thought, okay, even though the gauge that is recommended matches what the Let Lopi website usually says matches for a 5 or a 6. So I knew it was going to be small, but yet just evaporated this knowledge from my mind and cast on anyway. So on the sleeves I did a 4.5. My cuff I did a 3.75 because that was like less. That was a smaller needle than recommended because I'm still practicing Norwegian knitting and purling, and it was really loose before, so I had that in mind. So yeah, 3.75, 4.5, 4.5, but then I wanted this to be like bigger, so I've made this 5 millimeter needle, and I've gone back for the blue section. Now after this, it's a section of blue, the same like this one, and then it will be another colour work section on the top here. So for this middle part I've gone back to 4.5, and I'm really hoping that this combination will help make the colour work not so tight, and it will all blend and all work. By measuring it, it looks like it's going to be a tight squeeze. It will fit, but it will be tight. But I'm hoping that with a bit of blocking and wear and the button band that I will get like, I don't know, an inch maybe, just so that it's a bit easier to put on. Gosh, I am blabbing away. So yeah, I'm really excited by this. I am really excited to do the steeking, which is hilarious because I'm also terrified of cutting it. So they're like parallel excitements. My next work in progress, it looks pathetic for the amount of time that I spent on it. It is the Humlebi Shawl, which I have mentioned a couple of times already. The first time I showed you a swatch and it was going to be used, I was going to use that yarn for it, so I got distracted by looking at it. I was going to use the yarn and I just kept thinking about it and thinking, it's really just, it doesn't quite work, and maybe it's the wrong colour. So in the end I bought a gorgeous new ball of lovely yarn that I showed to you in my last episode. It's the John Arbent Textile Devonia ball in, I think the colour is called Amber Blaze. So a little bit of matchy here. So it is gorgeous and I love it very much. It requires you to cast on something like 380 or 390 stitches, which is a lot. And I was umming and ahhing and I thought I should really do a swatch just to make sure that this one is like correct. And after putting it off for the last week and a half or something, maybe 2 weeks, I thought, swear word insert there, I will just cast it on. And I don't know why, but the actual physical cast on, which is a picot edge, it's like a cable cast on, the physical movement of my hand during that on repeat was so painful that it took me like 3 evenings just to cast it on, which is quite pathetic, I know, but I just didn't want it to be wrong, so I kept looking it up, making sure I was doing it correctly, and even if it's wrong now, I'm not undoing it because it took so long. Hang on a second. The suspense, building the suspense here. So I have cast it on, and I have done like four rows. You really won't be able to see anything, I know, but just to show evidence I have actually cast it on, and it's all bundled up. So yeah, there was nothing really to show you, is there? But I've cast it on. The good news for me is that it starts off with the largest amount of stitches and then it decreases every row, so at some point it will shrink and then it will go a lot faster. But I'm very excited for this. Can I show you? There's my little picot edge. It really wants my face. No, that's super blurry. So yeah, there's a lot of stitch markers. As you can see, it's very colourful because you have to mark where your little picot edge bumps go, and I wanted to make sure I didn't have to count every time and be like 106 or 107, and then have to start again. So I have all my handy dandy stitch markers in place. So I'm excited for that. I'm using some Thiago needles. I actually had to buy a new cable to go with it. So this is the small needles and 125 centimeter cable so that I can fit all my stitches on it. And as I told you last time, and probably the time before, I'm still working on my other shawl and my mittens, but they just don't look any different, so there's no point in showing you. I've made a little bit of progress, but this small circumference of the needles on my mittens are really paining my index finger up here. So I've actually purchased some 80 centimeter, or it makes an 80 centimeter circumference in the end, so that I can change and use that, so that I can use my hands slightly differently. Because even though I've been really enjoying my minis and short circumference, like 9-inch needles to make socks and stuff. I really enjoyed that, and it made me go whiz, whiz, whiz all around, and it was great. But then for some reason I suddenly started getting hand ache, like halfway through a row it would hurt and send like shooting pains, and I thought, no, my mittens are not worth this, especially when I can knit using circulars, like longer circulars, and I don't have that pain. So that's a temporary solution. Hopefully it improves. I am feeling a lot better since doing the Norwegian style of knitting, so hopefully I can get my tension to be the same, and then maybe I can finish off the socks or mittens using my left hand instead of my right. Long ramble, long tangent. Anything else? So acquisitions, it's not a big deal, but it literally just arrived in the post before I turned my camera on. It's some more Loungewear. Seems to be the theme of my knitting. So I've got these two that just arrived, and I also have a green and some white, and they are going to be for my Jennifer Steingast Wintersol jumper. I'm very excited for this. I bought the pattern last year, but I was too scared to do colour work, especially because it's such a big yoke that I thought, if that all goes horribly wrong, that would be a waste of time and money and brain and soul. So I kept putting it off and putting it off. But as well as the yarns that I had for this one laying around, I had purchased a whole load of this colour, and I just didn't know what to do with it. And then I noticed that I had that pattern, and it happened to have the same yarn, like for the Loungewear. So I have purchased said yarn, and I'm going to cast it on, but I really think I should finish my Maja cardigan first. Otherwise I will just be inundated with colour work, everything's, and never actually finish anything. So patience is a virtue, and I will put this lovingly aside in my yarn stash and come back to it when I've finished my Maja, which, to be honest, is going quite fast for me. I'm not 100% sure when I cast it on. I'm sure it's somewhere in this YouTube space that I have mentioned it, but I'm going to go with about a month that I've been doing it. So I think maybe give me another 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4, it depends how the colour work goes, and the button band. I don't know why I'm putting a time frame on it if there's really no need, but it's going along nicely, and hopefully I will soon be able to show you the finished masterpiece. So that is all of my knitting. So that is all of my knitting progress. So if you're not interested in sewing, then thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you are staying for some sewing chat, then hello, we're still here. So I made this, that's my finished object in sewing, and I also made some buckwheat pillows. They don't look sensational when I just hold up the pillow, it looks like a pillow to you guys, but ta-da! I've made 2 of them, and they're probably really loud. I should maybe lay it carefully down. They're filled with buckwheat hulls, or husks. So they're just... How do I start this all over again? We have a friend, she lives in Poland, and she made some buckwheat pillows because she was getting headaches, and she had heard that they improved your posture when you sleep, and she loved them. And out of curiosity, I thought, maybe I can make one and see how it goes. And admittedly, I did make 2. I made one for me and one for my husband, and they were really difficult to adapt to for the first, I'm going to say 3 or 4 nights, but I'm not 100% sure. And we knew that they were supposed to be good for you, and we knew that we hated our pillows. They're just, I actually have one, like they're all behind me actually, I just throw it onto this sofa. They're just, You just push them together. There's no substance, there's no support, it's just pff. And I thought it'd be fun, basically. Fun to try and make a pillowcase, pillow covers. So made them, and yeah, they were difficult, but then we really found we slept well. And then when we visited my husband's parents last, was it 2-3 weeks ago, and we didn't bring them with us, oh, it was awful. Oh, we missed our pillows so much. It's kind of hilarious. But actually my husband bought his pillow for his parents to try. So we actually knew there was one of our pillows in the house, so nearby, but out of reach. And so they used them, and his father really liked them. His mum was a bit on the fence, but she's happy to give it a go. So I came back and I made some more. I bought 20 kilograms of buckwheat, so I definitely had enough to make some more pillows. I filled them with 1.5 kilograms of buckwheat, and our pillows are a bit bigger and they have 3.5 kilograms. I have so many pillowcases from the UK that are different size, and the German pillowcases are enormous. If you've ever seen the German pillowcases, they're just massive. And the bedding that I bought over or have been gifted from my parents have the UK pillows, and obviously they don't fit over any of my pillows, so now I can use them, finally. But they were just too big for my husband's parents. They wanted just a small pillow. So these are 20 by 14. So in order to make them, I did like half an inch seam allowance on either side. So I cut the fabric out as 15 by 21. And then I used what was it called? It's like a duvet or a bedding zip. It doesn't have the actual zip, you just have this little bump that you can move along. I think it was 25 centimeters. So I basically just put the two bits of fabric together and sewed them, added the zip, and sewed all the way around, and stuffed them with the buckwheat. And I added the zip because if the buckwheat gets wet, then it will go mouldy. So nobody wants that. So if for any reason it got wet, then they could just empty the buckwheat out of the pillowcase, lay it out flat in the sun or somewhere to dry, and then making sure there's no mold, they can put it back in a dry pillowcase. And also that means they can wash the pillowcase. And I'm also going to make them just some smaller pillowcases to go over them. I'm sure they'll just end up using some old pillowcase and just folding it over, but I think it'll be nice just to finish it off as a little gift. So they are my two sewing finished objects. Yeah, that's it. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I've just become aware that I'm drinking matcha tea, and I've probably had a green mustache through this whole episode. Ah, how embarrassing. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. And I hope to see you all again next episode.